unenhanced, or Binish for short. The adjutant glared at Binish, and his light brown skin turned slightly pink under the intense stare. He just couldn't help it, though. He was the top of his class at the most prestigious military academy in the world. And he would be the first person to pilot the new FTL bridge drive. The corner of the adjutant's mouth twitched when Binish tossed a wink at him just to throw him off balance. They were actually good friends despite the quarter-century difference in age and the outward appearance of completely incompatible personalities. He was a goofball savant that didn't work hard enough, but somehow always came out on top. The adjutant was the staunch, old guard, stick-up-the-ass academy commander. Binish had learned his first week at the academy not to judge a book by its cover. The memory of exploring the academy's service tunnels could still send chills down his spine. And coming up from under a manhole cover just to see the most powerful man in your small world standing 10 feet away, smoking a cigar behind a bush is pretty startling. Binish's face turned into a caricature of pain as he tried to frown to cancel out the smile elicited by the memory. Thomas was the adjutant's real name, but he preferred Tom with his friends. Tom had become a tutor, mentor, and friend for Binish. Do solemnly swear to hold life above all else, to save what can be saved, and only to kill in defense of myself or others. Binish repeated the words. And that I will defend the rights of all, regardless of creed or color, against tyranny and greed. Binish repeated the words. Congratulations, Lieutenant Binish Alphonse de Jesus, by the authority of the United Nations. You are hereby an officer in the army of man. Binish wouldn't learn this for many years, but here is a little secret just for us. Tom loved Binish like a son, and said so in his autobiography that was not published until after his death. He had been raised in a, well, unfortunate is what we will call it. He was raised in an unfortunate way that meant he didn't tell many people how he felt when he was alive. But it's all right, and I'll show you why. Binish saluted the adjutant, as was proper, and the adjutant saluted back, but held the position, and kept holding it. After, almost for whole minutes, Binish's arm was on fire, but the worst pain was coming from his abdomen. He didn't think he could hold in the laughter any longer. To everyone but the two of them, this looked like a punishment for his ad-lib during the recital, and in some part it was. Only a small part, though. To the two of them, it was a game, one of many that close friends play, and the winner was the person who didn't crack. The military, quite obviously, focuses strongly on stoic resolve and stability under pressure. People mistakenly equate reservedness with strength of will, when it could be argued those who make their will manifest most obviously are strong-willed. Either way, it follows that a tradition of reservedness and stoicism is common in military history. Part of their friendship had developed around trying to get the other person to break that character of stoicism at inappropriate times. Binish had started the game with the first sentence he ever uttered to the adjutant. Didn't your wife say she was so proud of you for quitting? Was not a sentence the adjutant could have reasonably expected from a first-year student popping out of a sewer grate. He had burst out laughing and then clapped his hand over his mouth like a child. In that instant they became fast friends. So now after for minutes, to incredibly burning arms and to tortured abdomens were relieved as they both smiled and dropped the salute. Then the adjutant stepped forward for the traditional exchange of private words, and his face darkened So quickly, Binish actually stopped mid-step. Did he do something wrong? Had he completely misinterpreted the salute? Was that not one of the games? Fuck! Did he just ruin one of his few adult relationships? His emotions did a little dance and jig over the course of heartbeats, and then he committed to the step and clasped forearms with Tom. Son, there's something you have to know. The FTL drive. I wasn't supposed to tell you, but none of the test subjects came back. Only the shuttle. Do you understand? Binish was so focused on his own potential fuck-up that it took, as Tom would say, slower than frozen molasses, for him to understand. Yes, sir. He made eye contact as he said the words, still slightly fearing he had damaged something irreplaceable. That fear shattered when he saw the glint of restrained tears in the adjutant's eyes. One lone squeaker made it out of his own eye before he could blink it away, and the adjutant broke character completely and hugged him. Good luck, Lieutenant. Those were the last words Binish ever heard the adjutant, or any human being he loved, say. Let's not get ahead. Binish boarded the FTL shuttle in the traditional style. Shuttle from low orbit to the Lagrange point, space bridge walk to the NLT cannon, and televised launch. Except this time, it wasn't the NLT platform he was approaching, it was the FTL platform. This platform was a speck compared to the NLT platform, which was a literal McGrail cannon with a massive maglev loop for as much speed at launch as possible. The FTL platform was literally just a docking station. The FTL craft, a radio tower, and some steel plates for continuity. The spacecraft itself didn't really tell you anything either, because it looked exactly like a standard space shuttle designed by NASA. Binish knew this was because that was exactly what it was, down to the very nuts and bolts. The press releases said it was all new fabrication. But Binish knew the world government wouldn't shell out money for a new shuttle if it could just slap some paint on the old one. So that's exactly what the military did. They called it a refit and claimed to have completely replaced the old ineffective heat shielding with aerogel concrete, but he was pretty sure on the approach he saw some atmospheric scuffing left over from the last time this shuttle had hit atmosphere. The science of the FTL craft had been explained to him in the same way you might explain English to a cat. Actually, exactly like that. Just because he had been told the FTL drive creates a field of quantum, entangled subatomic particles in the target space and at relativistic speeds craft entering these fields create a cascade quantum disturbance which results in a net transfer of material from one quantum entangled space to the other did not mean he understood English any better than a cat. Wait! That was a horrible analogy, Binish thought to himself. Then he shrugged and thought, who cares? No one is listening. It ultimately didn't matter if he understood how the FTL drive worked much in the same way it didn't matter if he didn't understand why or how he was a living conscious self-aware entity. The game still had to be played through. The launch process was honestly pretty boring for everyone involved, so let's skip over it. No offense to ground control, y'all are super important, but the most exciting part of your job is the last 10 seconds. Binish felt similarly, and so went on autopilot for most of the process. There is a state called flow that anyone who is a professional at a given task can enter, where they are able to repeatedly perform a task reliably without conscious effort. Binish had practiced the launch sequence for the FTL craft so many times he literally began performing the sequence in his sleep. 10.9.876.543.2.1 Blackout, are you with us? Binish was looking at an older man with light wrinkling around the eyes and mouth that looked oddly new, like he had only recently started smiling. The launch was instantaneous from Binish's perspective. 1 second he was in the FTL craft, undocked from the FTL platform, and the next we was looking at a man who was asking him questions. Yes, what happened? I didn't get any warning from the craft. Did the FTL drive fail? The face froze for a second, and Binish realized he was looking at a screen or hologram. His field of view was fixed, which oddly did not concern him, despite the fact he couldn't move his neck. The faster-than-light drive did not malfunction. It unfortunately functioned exactly as designed. Why is that unfortunate? Binish felt only the mildest concern about his inability to move or be concerned about that fact. He also experienced mild concern about the fact he was only mildly interested in the fact the FTL drive had supposedly worked. Well, we didn't do our math carefully enough. You see, the way we found to travel faster than light is not good for the ecosystem. Are you running this through a translator or something? Can you just come out and talk to me? I won't freak out, I promise. I was trained for first contact. Binish didn't mean to lie, but he was not prepared for first contact. Most people imagine little green or grey men. Maybe a few imagine Lovecraftian, flying sea cucumbers or monolithic squids, but no one at all imagines Furbies. That is what Binish saw, and that is what Binish seemed terrified by, but in reality, the sound he made was a mixture of surprise and wonder. Also, a little bit of fear. Never, in creation, should Furbies have been imagined, much less evolved into walking, talking, man-sized bears. That is how Binish felt in the few seconds before he accidentally asphyxiated a little bit